It's getting harder to ignore what's happening at Japanese motorcycle dealerships. Rows of bikes that once flew off the lot are now just sitting, unridden, untouched, and unwanted. Prices are being slashed quietly, and the models left behind might surprise you. Let's count down the 7 bikes nobody's buying. Number 7. Yamaha R7. For many riders, the Yamaha R7 was supposed to be the natural step up from smaller beginner machines. It promised a sleek, modern entry into the sport bike category without the intimidating characteristics of larger 600 cubic centimeter supersports. But what looked good on paper didn't always translate to real-world success. Instead of dominating the midweight class, the R7 quickly found itself caught between expectations it couldn't quite meet. It was too upright for riders looking for aggressive track performance, yet too aggressive in posture for those wanting a comfortable daily rider. In trying to satisfy everyone, the bike ended up feeling compromised to many, especially experienced riders who expected more edge and newcomers who wanted more comfort. Its engine is a 689 cubic centimeter parallel twin that delivers 73 horsepower and 50 pound-feet of torque. While respectable, those numbers pale in comparison to higher-tier middleweights that cost only slightly more. Riders expected a rush of power, but instead got a steady, manageable delivery, something that left thrill-seekers underwhelmed. The R7 tips the scales at 414 pounds, and although its weight is well-balanced, the riding position and limited adjustability meant it fatigued riders over longer distances. Braking is handled by dual front hydraulic discs with 4 piston calipers, paired with a rear single-disc setup. Suspension includes a fully adjustable inverted front fork and a rear monoshock, components that suggest track ambitions, even though the overall chassis response leans toward stability rather than sharpness. Even visually, the R7 split opinions. Some appreciated the aggressive fairings and race-inspired design, but others saw it as a budget imitation of a true supersport. The bike lacked the commanding road presence of a full-sized R1, and its relatively narrow tires gave it a more commuter-like stance when viewed from behind. Riders hoping for that race replica feeling were left underwhelmed. Priced at $9,100 before taxes and fees, it sat awkwardly close to machines with more horsepower, better electronics packages, and more established reputations in both the sport and touring segments. As time went on, the R7's momentum slowed. Riders started to ask hard questions. Was this really a significant upgrade over the MT series? Was it worth the added discomfort? Or was it just a styling exercise meant to fill a price gap rather than serve a clear rider purpose? Forums and real-world reviews began reflecting the same pattern. Respect for Yamaha's engineering, but no real excitement to back it up. It became a bike that was good at many things but not great at anything. A solid performer, yes, but not the standout Yamaha had hoped for. As it stands now, the R7 remains in production, but its position in the lineup feels increasingly uncertain, with buyers either moving toward the more affordable MT-07 or stepping up to full-size sport bikes. The R7 is caught in a shrinking middle ground. And as motorcycle buyers continue to favor bikes with sharper identities, broader comfort, or pure performance, this model's compromised formula is being quietly passed over. If the R7 couldn't bridge the gap, the next bike never even knew what gap it was trying to fill. If you've been surprised by any of these bikes, hit that like button and subscribe for more industry insights. Stay tuned because we're just getting started. Number 6. Kawasaki Versys-X 300. There was a moment when it seemed like Kawasaki had found the perfect formula for a lightweight adventure bike that could appeal to both beginner riders and seasoned commuters. The Versys-X 300 was compact, approachable, and carried the kind of rugged design language that made it look ready for any trail or dirt path. On paper, this motorcycle had a lot going for it. It came equipped with a parallel twin engine producing 39 horsepower with a displacement of 296 cubic centimeters and 21 pound-feet of torque that made it quick off the line and capable of spirited city rides. But as soon as the road opened up or turned rough, its limitations became impossible to ignore. Highway riding was a challenge, especially when passing or carrying gear, and it lacked the low-end torque that adventure riders depend on for off-road climbs. What began as a promising entry-level adventure machine quickly became a hard sell to both new and experienced riders. The styling suggested capability, but the performance didn't follow through. The tall seat height of over 32 inches turned off smaller riders, while the lack of true off-road suspension components disappointed those hoping for long-range trail endurance. It featured telescopic front forks and a bottom-link uni-track rear suspension system, but neither were particularly suited for aggressive off-pavement use. Braking was handled by a single disc up front and rear, without standard anti-lock braking on the base model. The bike weighed in at approximately 385 pounds, making it light enough for control, but not necessarily stable at highway speeds. Fuel capacity was modest at 4.5 gallons, and though it had decent fuel economy, it was never a long-distance hauler. Riders quickly found themselves limited, not just by power but by confidence. The real problem was not just performance, but market confusion. Who exactly was the Versys-X 300 made for? It lacked the road confidence of a mid-size commuter, and yet it wasn't rugged enough to stand alongside true adventure models like the Africa Twin or even its bigger sibling, the Versys-650. Riders looking for affordability often defaulted to dual sports with more trail-ready heritage, and those seeking adventure turned to larger bikes with better torque electronics and long-distance comfort. The Kawasaki name had strength in both categories, but the Versys-X 300 seemed lost in the middle without a clear identity or target audience. Even the inclusion of features like a rear luggage rack, upright ergonomics, and a windscreen failed to generate significant excitement. With a starting price of $5,900, the Versys-X 300 was not outlandishly priced, but as competing manufacturers introduced models with more technology, power, and support, the bike began to look outdated. It lacked the screen connectivity, riding modes, or traction systems that even entry-level bikes are beginning to offer. Riders who rode it appreciated its upright stance and predictable handling on city streets, but often found themselves wishing for more on the open road or dirt paths. Even loyal Kawasaki fans began steering clear of the model, not because it was a bad bike, but because it lacked a compelling reason to choose it over everything else in its price range. It became the definition of good enough, and in today's competitive motorcycle market, good enough just isn't enough. From confused intentions to nostalgic designs that no longer sell, the next model clings to the past in all the wrong ways. Even if bikes fall behind, your gear shouldn't. We linked our go-to jackets, gloves, and helmets in the description. Ride smarter. Number 5. Honda Shadow Phantom. There was a time when simplicity and reliability were enough to define a motorcycle, and for years this particular cruiser carried the torch for laid-back, American-style comfort, wrapped in Japanese reliability. But in today's riding landscape, where expectations have evolved and features matter more than ever, this bike's unchanging nature has finally caught up with it. Riders are no longer content with a basic experience that doesn't evolve. They want modern instrumentation, refined ergonomics, and the kind of performance that feels dialed in, not just acceptable. What used to be considered timeless is now being seen as outdated. The Shadow Phantom still comes with a liquid-cooled single overhead cam, V-twin engine producing 45 horsepower and also 45 pound-feet of torque from its 745 cubic centimeter setup. On paper, that sounds serviceable for city cruising or relaxed highway riding, but when you place those numbers next to modern-day mid-size cruisers offering more torque, more comfort, and better tech, the difference becomes glaring. The bike's 5-speed gearbox feels out of step compared to 6-speed units in competitors, and the final shaft drive, once a bragging point, now adds weight without delivering the same satisfaction as a properly tuned belt system. The front suspension consists of a conventional telescopic fork with 4.5 inches of travel paired with dual rear shocks offering 3.5 inches of movement. It rides on a low 25.8-inch seat height and tips the scales at 543 pounds. Braking duties are handled by a single 296mm disc up front with a twin-piston caliper and a 180mm drum in the rear, a setup that feels increasingly dated for a bike still asking for around $8,399 brand new. There is no traction control, no ride modes, and the analog cluster lacks even a basic gear position indicator. Riders are expected to just know where they are in the rev band. Younger buyers coming into dealerships today expect more for their money, even in the cruiser segment, and older riders, while often more forgiving, also want something that makes their investment feel worthwhile. The Shadow Phantom delivers dependable performance, yes, but it lacks excitement, character evolution, and real customization options. Add to that its limited factory color options and a seat that feels thin after 50 miles, and you have a bike that doesn't just fail to inspire, it struggles to even compete. In the used market, Shadow Phantom models tend to hold up mechanically, but they lose appeal quickly. Riders report minimal aftermarket support, few practical touring upgrades, and a resale value that drops faster than expected for a Honda. Dealerships know this and have quietly started nudging buyers toward alternatives, particularly the Rebel series, which offer more modern lines, a stronger brand story, and broader community engagement. Even the Rebel 500 ends up looking like a smarter buy for both new and returning riders. This is not about bad engineering, it's about stagnation. The Shadow Phantom hasn't truly evolved to meet the market it still hopes to serve. Its engine still hums, its brakes still work, and for a Sunday ride through a quiet town, it will do the job. But in a segment where style, tech, and comfort are no longer luxuries, they're expected standards, this bike finds itself left behind. While the Shadow Phantom looked stuck in time, the next bike tried to look forward and fell flat on its face. Number 4. Suzuki SV650x. There was a time when the SV line stood tall as one of Suzuki's most well-balanced platforms. Known for reliability, smooth power delivery, and a strong mid-range V-twin engine, the SV became a top choice for everyday riders who wanted performance without pretense. So when the SV650x rolled out, many expected a thoughtful evolution, something that honored the lineage while pushing the design forward. What they got instead was a slightly altered silhouette and a higher price tag. The X brought clip-on handlebars, a cafe-inspired front cowl, and revised trim. But underneath all of that styling was the same machine riders already knew. No major upgrades to performance, electronics, or long-distance comfort. In a market where every detail counts, riders saw through the facade almost immediately. The bike is powered by a V-twin, 4-stroke, liquid-cooled engine that displaces 645 cubic centimeters. It produces approximately 75 horsepower and around 47 pound-feet of torque, giving it enough strength for spirited city riding and highway passes. The power is transferred through a 6-speed transmission and chain drive with a well-calibrated throttle that provides linear and predictable response. For braking, the SV650x uses dual 2-piston front calipers with 290-inch discs and a single-piston rear caliper with a 240-inch disc. Suspension includes a conventional telescopic front fork and a rear-link-type shock absorber, both offering moderate damping for casual riding. Weighing in at just over 430 pounds, the SV650x is light enough for agile handling but lacks any form of advanced suspension tuning or rider aids. With a starting price of $9,399, many potential buyers began to question the value. For only a modest visual change, the SV650x demanded more money than the standard SV650, without offering any mechanical advantage or improved ride experience. Add to that the rising popularity of other middleweight competitors like the Yamaha MT series or even Honda's CB lineup, and the SV650x began to feel like an awkward middle child. It's not retro enough to charm vintage fans, not modern enough to woo the tech crowd, and not aggressive enough for true sport riders. Even Suzuki's own customers preferred to stick with the base model or step up to something with more flair or function. The few that did purchase the SV650X often cited aesthetics as the only motivating factor, and even then, many quickly found the riding posture to be less than ideal for daily commutes or long hauls. The lower bars created wrist fatigue, the styling added weight without aerodynamic benefit, and the ergonomics leaned too far into form over function. Dealers quietly acknowledged that the model underperformed and began redirecting interest toward more popular offerings. This cafe experiment didn't crash and burn, it simply never took off. Riders are quick to embrace innovation, but only when it adds meaningful improvements. The SV650X tried to capitalize on nostalgia, yet it forgot what made its predecessor great in the first place. Practical, affordable fun. With each month that passes, it becomes clearer that this bike is better remembered for what it tried to be, rather than what it actually was. If that cafe racer couldn't justify its own badge, the next machine couldn't even justify its entire identity. Number 3. Honda CTX700. There was a time when Honda believed the future of motorcycling could come from blending categories no one expected to go together. The result was the CTX700, a machine that attempted to fuse the comfort of a cruiser, the practicality of a scooter, and the long-distance capability of a touring motorcycle. It had a laid-back seating position, a futuristic profile, and an optional dual-clutch automatic transmission that removed the need for shifting entirely. But instead of innovating the market, the CTX700 confused it. Riders could not tell what it was trying to be. Cruiser loyalists saw a bike that lacked character. Touring riders found it underpowered. Scooter fans were turned off by the weight. And sport riders never even looked in its direction. The bike is powered by a 671 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, producing approximately 48 horsepower and 44 pounds-feet of torque. It is liquid-cooled and fuel-injected, delivering smooth and predictable performance, but not enough to inspire confidence on the open highway. Paired with a low seat height of 28.3 inches and a forward-set foot control layout, the riding posture is relaxed, almost too relaxed for riders expecting responsiveness. The suspension includes a 41mm telescopic fork in the front and a Pro-Link rear shock with preload adjustability. Stopping power is delivered by a single 276mm disc up front and a 240mm disc in the rear. Curb weight tips the scale at 478 pounds, making it heavier than it looks and harder to maneuver at low speeds. At a starting price of $8,499, the CTX700 was never particularly cheap either. And while Honda's build quality is typically second to none, even that could not overcome the confusion buyers felt. The issue with the CTX700 was not its capability. It could handle light touring, daily commutes, and suburban cruising with ease. The real problem was its lack of identity. It was not comfortable enough to dominate the cruiser category. It was not quick enough to appeal to sport bike riders, and it was not practical enough to dethrone scooters. In trying to be a solution for everyone, it became a top-of-mind option for no one. This left Honda with a motorcycle that performed reasonably well in every scenario, but stood out in none. Riders would often test ride the bike and leave without a strong opinion, neither excited nor disappointed. And that indifference became its greatest weakness. Word of mouth faded. Dealerships stopped featuring it front and center. Online reviews grew scarce. Even YouTube test rides started skipping it in favor of more polarizing models. The CTX700 didn't inspire hatred. It simply didn't inspire anything. In a market where passion drives purchases, apathy is fatal. Today, the CTX700 remains a curiosity more than a collectible. It has a loyal handful of riders who appreciate its practicality and gentle manners, especially among older or newer motorcyclists who want an unintimidating entry point. But those riders are few, and the showroom floors have moved on. In a world chasing sharper edges and louder personalities, the CTX700 quietly faded into the background. Too unique to be ignored, yet too soft-spoken to be remembered. If that machine was too strange to find a home, then the next bike had the opposite problem. It was built for speed, chased adrenaline, and yet somehow nobody wants it anymore. Number 2. Suzuki Hayabusa. There was a time when just hearing the name inspired awe. It was the motorcycle world's answer to unrestricted speed, a machine so legendary it didn't just beat records, it defined them. With a long, low aerodynamic design, powerful V-twin-like surge, and a commanding road presence, the Hayabusa dominated conversations in the early 2000s. Its legacy was built on raw acceleration, limitless top speed, and an aura of rebellion. But fast forward to today, and that legend is quietly slipping into irrelevance. Buyers no longer line up for what was once the pride of Suzuki's lineup. Instead, the Hayabusa sits in the corner of dealership floors, admired more for nostalgia than performance. In an age of electric torque, agile middleweights, and real-world usability, the Hayabusa's appeal has narrowed dramatically. Underneath its sculpted bodywork, the current generation is powered by a 1,340 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, delivering 187 horsepower and 110 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are still impressive, but they're no longer untouchable. The sport bike segment has matured, and expectations have changed. Buyers now look for machines that balance power with daily practicality, rider comfort, and advanced electronics. The Hayabusa, though updated in recent years, still leans heavily on its legacy rather than embracing full modernization. For riders who aren't chasing top-speed records, that legacy just isn't enough. The bike features dual front disc brakes with Brembo-style calipers and a rear single-disc setup, providing strong stopping power. Suspension is handled by fully adjustable inverted front forks and a rear monoshock, giving it road composure, especially at higher speeds. Its curb weight comes in at 564 pounds, which makes it heavier than many of its rivals. That weight can be felt in slow corners and city maneuvering. Add to that its 13.4-inch seat height, and you get a machine that's built more for sweeping highways than back-road flickability. The Hayabusa's starting price is $18,599. Insurance costs for the Hayabusa are another major hurdle. With its classification as a hyperbike and its high horsepower output, insurers place it in a high-risk category. Younger riders are often priced out before they even throw a leg over. Combine that with increased emissions regulations, especially in markets like California and Europe, and the Hayabusa finds itself boxed in. It's too powerful for daily commuting, too heavy for track use, and too expensive to insure for the average buyer. And while longtime fans remain loyal, even many of them are shifting toward lighter, more versatile options. Used Hayabusas are also facing a quiet reckoning. Once prized on the secondary market, many now linger for months unsold. Buyers are increasingly wary of hard-ridden bikes with uncertain service histories. Resale values have slipped as demand shifts to bikes like the Yamaha MT series or Kawasaki's updated sport offerings. The Hayabusa may still be a beast in terms of numbers, but the market no longer responds to pure specs alone. From a motorcycle that once symbolized peak performance to a showroom ornament gathering dust, the Hayabusa's fall isn't due to failure. It's due to evolution. The riding world has moved forward, and despite updates, this Suzuki just couldn't keep pace. As performance expectations become more practical and price-sensitive, even a king can be dethroned. Wait until you see the next bike on the list, because number 1 shows what happens when a solid idea arrives just a little too late. Is your favorite bike on the list? Let us know in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more updates on the motorcycles that are slowly disappearing from the market. Number 1. Kawasaki Ninja 650. It was never meant to be a showstopper, but for years this middleweight sport bike sat right in the sweet spot between everyday practicality and weekend thrill. It was agile enough for city riding, strong enough for spirited highway runs, and comfortable enough for daily commutes. At one point, riders praised it for being the most accessible way to step up from an entry-level motorcycle without diving headfirst into an intimidating 600 cubic centimeter supersport. It offered a balanced riding experience, part sport bike, part commuter, and that was exactly what many riders needed. But in 2025, the market around it changed completely, and the Ninja 650 simply could not keep up. Riders today are looking for sharper identities and stronger performance profiles. The Z650, which shares the same platform but embraces a naked urban attitude, has taken a massive bite out of the Ninja's appeal. Meanwhile, the Yamaha R7 now offers more aggressive styling and a firmer ride that appeals to riders seeking a true sport bike feel without going to a full race replica. Even older middleweights like the Suzuki SX600 are holding on thanks to their proven performance. By comparison, the Ninja 650 has been left behind, not because it's a bad bike, but because it no longer stands out in a rapidly evolving segment. It rides well, but feels too familiar. It performs, but fails to inspire. In short, it no longer has a story to tell. From a technical standpoint, the Ninja 650 is powered by a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, producing 67 horsepower and 48 pound-feet of torque. It uses a diamond frame chassis and weighs in at 429 pounds wet. Braking is handled by dual 290mm front discs with 2 piston calipers and a single 220mm rear disc. Suspension consists of a telescopic 41mm fork in the front and a preload adjustable horizontal backlink rear shock. The seat height measures 31.1 inches, making it accessible for a wide range of riders. Its starting price is $8,599. Despite those respectable specifications, the Ninja 650 just does not generate the excitement it once did. It lacks the raw torque of a larger twin, the high-rev scream of a supersport, or the minimalist cool of a modern naked bike. It lands in the middle, technically capable but emotionally flat. For veteran riders, it offers too little to justify upgrading. For new riders, there are more exciting beginner options with better tech or lower prices. Even its signature styling, once a big part of its draw, now looks almost tame next to its competitors. Dealerships know it. Walk into most Kawasaki showrooms and you will not see the Ninja 650 on display front and center. Salespeople are guiding new riders toward the Z650, the Ninja 400, or even cross-shopping into adventure bikes. In some regions, inventory has remained unsold for months. Financing offers and gear bundles have been quietly applied, but interest still lags. It is not that the Ninja 650 has done something wrong. It is that everything else around it has moved forward and it stayed in place. If you found this list eye-opening, comment below with which bike you think should make a comeback. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on more insights into the motorcycle industry's biggest shifts. Stay sharp out there. Your next ride might be just around the corner.